Imagine living in a country where almost everything works exactly as planned. Sounds perfect. But what if perfection comes with a cost nobody talks about? Switzerland looks like a country where everything has already been figured out. Trains arrive exactly on time. Cities feel perfectly organized. Even silence seems structured. From the outside, it almost looks unreal, like a place where nothing goes wrong. But the deeper question is not what Switzerland looks like. It is what it feels like to live inside it. Because behind the beauty, behind the order, behind the postcard perfect mountains, there is something most people never talk about. A quiet, emotional distance. Not coldness, but space. Between people. Between conversations. Between daily life itself. Everything works here, but everything also stays controlled. And that creates a strange question. If a country is this perfect on the surface, why does it sometimes feel so different to the people living inside it? In Switzerland, order is not just a system, it is a lifestyle. A discipline passed through generations. Being on time is not a habit, it is respect. Clean streets are not optional, they are expected. Life is designed to run smoothly. But perfection always comes with a cost. And that is what we are about to explore. Because the real Switzerland is not just mountains, lakes, and efficient trains. It is a balance between beauty and pressure, between comfort and quiet isolation, between control and freedom. And as we go deeper into this journey, one question will guide everything we uncover. Is Switzerland a country of perfect living, or a country of perfectly managed life? If you're ready for this journey, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. And if you enjoy cinematic documentaries like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Hidden Nation TV, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what we uncover next. Now, let's continue. Daily life in Switzerland does not feel loud, it feels measured. Not in an emotional sense, but in the way everything seems to have its place, its timing, and its unspoken rules. Mornings begin quietly. Streets are clean long before most people fully wake up. Public transport already runs on schedule. People move with purpose, but without rush. There is no visible chaos trying to be fixed, because chaos is rarely allowed to form in the first place. Even in neighborhoods, there is a sense of calm order. Not because life is empty, but because it is structured in a way that avoids unnecessary disruption. And over time, this rhythm becomes normal. You don't notice it at first, but then you begin to realize something subtle. Silence here is not accidental. It is cultural. People speak when needed. They respect space. They avoid unnecessary interruption. Even social interaction often carries a sense of boundaries that are quietly understood rather than openly explained. To an outsider, this can feel peaceful, almost ideal. But to someone living inside it every day, it can also feel like a life where everything has been optimized, including interaction itself. And that raises a quiet question. When life becomes this organized, does it leave enough room for spontaneity? Because in many parts of the world, daily life is shaped by unpredictability, chance conversations, sudden plans, unexpected interruptions. In Switzerland, those moments still exist, but they are less frequent, more contained, and often more intentional. This is not a criticism. It is simply a different rhythm of living, a rhythm built on reliability, respect for time, and a shared understanding that order benefits everyone. But as we continue deeper into this journey, we start to see how this rhythm does not just shape schedules, it shapes people. And once you understand the rhythm of daily life here, the next question naturally appears. What happens when different cultures, languages, and identities all try to live inside this same structured rhythm? Before you answer that, take a moment and think. If your daily life was this organized, would you feel more free or more controlled? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to see how different people see this kind of life. And if you are finding this journey interesting so far, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who loves travel documentaries, and subscribe to Hidden Nation TV so you don't miss what comes next. Now, we go deeper. To understand Switzerland, you also have to understand something less visible than its landscapes. You have to understand why people stay. Because in many countries, people talk about leaving, about moving somewhere else, about chasing opportunity, change, or escape. But in Switzerland, the question often feels different. It is not, where should I go next? It is, why would I leave what already works? At first glance, the answer seems simple: stability. Switzerland offers a level of safety and predictability that is rare in the modern world. Crime rates are low. Systems are reliable. Public services function with precision. Life feels structured in a way that removes constant uncertainty. And for many people, that alone is enough reason to stay. But beneath that surface, there is something more emotional. A sense of belonging to a system that rarely fails you. In Switzerland, if you follow the rules, life tends to follow you back with fairness. Work is organized, time is respected. The system feels like it holds its shape, even when individual life does not. And that creates a quiet kind of comfort. Not excitement, not chaos, but control. But here is where the deeper question appears. Does stability alone create happiness? Or does it sometimes replace something more unpredictable that people don't realize they miss until it is gone? Because for every person who finds peace in Switzerland's structure, there may be another who quietly feels something harder to name. A sense that everything is correct, but slightly distant. And still, most people stay. Not because they cannot leave, but because leaving a place that works so well comes with its own emotional uncertainty. And so it turns into more than just a country. It turns into a system of life that rewards consistency and quietly discourages disruption. And as we move forward, we start to see how this stability shapes not just decisions, but everyday existence itself. Because next, we step into what that life actually looks like from the inside. There's a moment when most people start understanding Switzerland differently. It isn't the mountains, the trains, or the cities. It's the cost of living. Beauty and order here come with a price that's financial and psychological. At first it seems logical. High salaries, a strong economy, stable jobs. On paper, it adds up. But daily life tells a more detailed story. Rent is high. Food is expensive. Even small decisions carry weight. Nothing feels chaotic, but everything feels measured in value, down to the smallest purchase. That creates a quiet discipline in everyday living. People don't just spend time, they manage resources carefully, not because they're struggling in any obvious way, but because efficiency extends past systems and into personal life itself. This is where the real contrast shows up. From the outside, Switzerland looks like a country of financial comfort. From the inside, comfort is structured, not automatic. You can live well here, but not carelessly. And for many people, that distinction quietly redefines what freedom feels like. Freedom isn't only what you can afford. It's also how much space you feel you have to decide, without cost, sitting in the background of every choice. In Switzerland, that quiet awareness rarely fully disappears, even in moments that should feel relaxed. Still, most people adapt. They adjust their expectations, align their lifestyle, and learn to move with the system instead of against it. And in doing so, life settles back into something stable again. But the real question lingers. Is a life built on high structure and high cost still freedom? Or is it simply a comfortable form of discipline that feels acceptable because it's predictable? Money here isn't only about wealth. It's about balance between what you earn, what you spend, and what you're willing to trade in exchange for stability. That balance shapes more than budgets. It quietly shapes how free a life actually feels, day after day. So here's the question worth sitting with. If every choice carried a quiet financial awareness in the background, even in a place this stable, safe, and well-organized, would you still call it a free life? Tell me where you land in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how different people see this kind of balance. And if this journey's been holding your attention, hit like, share it with someone who loves real-world documentaries, and subscribe to Hidden Nation TV for more deep explorations like this. Now, Let's continue. In Switzerland, work isn't just something people do. It defines structure in everyday life. From the outside, the economy looks powerful and developed. Banking, pharmaceuticals, engineering, precision industries, global financial influence. But inside the system, work isn't built around chaos or constant pressure the way it is in many countries. It's built around order. Deadlines are respected. Time is protected. Efficiency isn't demanded. It's simply the standard everyone already understands. That creates a specific kind of working life. Stable, but disciplined. People aren't constantly rushing. They move with purpose. Tasks get completed within structured hours. And work and personal life stay clearly separated in a way many countries never quite manage. That separation raises its own question, though. When work ends this cleanly, what fills the space after it? In many places, work spills into life. Overlap, urgency, unpredictability bleeding past the workday. In Switzerland, that boundary holds firmer. The definition brings relief and structure. But for some, it also brings a quiet routine that rarely breaks. The system rewards consistency, precision, reliability over spontaneity, and that shapes more than industries. It shapes people. Workers become highly disciplined. Careers follow clear pathways rather than chaotic leaps. That builds real stability, but it also reduces randomness, the kind of unpredictability that sometimes produces sudden change or an unexpected opportunity nobody planned for. So another layer of Switzerland comes into view. A country where success isn't accidental, but carefully built through systems that rarely fail. Which leads to a deeper question. Does this much efficiency in organizing work also quietly limit how people imagine different kinds of lives? Or does it simply make life more predictable in a way most people genuinely prefer? From here, we start moving away from systems and into something more visual, more emotional. Because after structure comes escape, and in Switzerland, escape rarely means leaving the country. More often, it means stepping into nature. Before we go there, sit with this. Would you rather have a work life that's unpredictable but full of opportunity, or one that's stable, structured, and reliable, even if it feels repetitive over time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to see how people around the world land on this. And if you're still watching, hit like, share it with someone who works a structured job, and subscribe to Hidden Nation TV for more. Now, we move into something completely different. If there's one place where Switzerland feels almost unreal, it isn't inside its cities, it's outside them. In the mountains, where silence stretches further than roads. In valleys, where villages sit between layers of green and snow. In lakes that reflect the sky so clearly, it gets hard to tell where reality ends and the reflection begins. Nature here isn't something you visit. It's something you live inside. For many people, it becomes the emotional counterweight to an otherwise structured life. After disciplined work, organized systems, and quiet social behavior, nature is the space where everything feels less controlled. More open, more still. But even here, Switzerland doesn't feel chaotic. It feels maintained. Trails are clean. Paths are marked. Access is organized. Even the wilderness exists within a sense of order. That's what makes it distinct. In many countries, nature represents unpredictability. In Switzerland, it represents harmony between freedom and structure. People hike not just for exercise, but for a mental reset. Families spend time in the mountains, not as an escape from life, but as part of life itself. The seasons shape routines in a way that feels natural rather than disruptive. Summer brings long outdoor days, winter brings quiet, and a stillness that settles into the daily rhythm without forcing anything. Behind the beauty sits a quieter truth. Nature becomes essential precisely because everyday life is so organized. It's where people reconnect with something less structured, something more human, something that doesn't run on schedules or systems. That balance matters. Without it, the structure of daily life might start to feel too constant, too unbroken. So Switzerland builds a rhythm between two worlds, one made by systems, one made by landscape. People move between both as a natural part of living, which raises a real question. When a country offers both near-perfect systems and near-perfect landscapes, where do people actually feel most alive? In the order of the cities or the silence of the mountains? Before we move forward, think about your own life. If you had access to nature this pure, this close, this constant, would it change how you relate to stress and everyday pressure? Tell me in the comments. I'm curious how people from different environments see this balance. And if you're still with me, hit like, share it with someone who loves nature documentaries, and subscribe to Hidden Nation TV for more. Now, we continue deeper. Switzerland is often described as if it were one single identity, one people, one culture, one way of life. Look closer, and a more complex picture appears. Switzerland isn't a single cultural story. It's several worlds living inside one system, each shaped by its own history, long before the modern country took its current form. German-speaking regions, French-speaking regions, Italian-speaking areas, and Romansh communities each carry their own rhythms, expressions, and social styles, yet all exist under the same national structure. That might sound like a minor detail, but in daily life it changes everything. The way people speak, think, and express emotion, even how they interpret silence, shifts depending on which region you're standing in. This creates a quiet identity balance most countries don't experience in quite the same way. Switzerland isn't only managing geography, it's managing identity. And somehow, it works, held together by shared values rather than uniform culture, through discipline, structure, and respect for order, even where expression differs from canton to canton. That raises a real question. When a country contains multiple cultural identities, what actually connects people emotionally? Is it language, tradition, or something less visible? A shared agreement on how life should function, regardless of the words used to describe it? This is where Switzerland gets genuinely interesting. Despite real internal differences, there's a strong sense of national stability holding everything in place. A quiet understanding that systems must work, even when cultures don't match. But beneath that stability, individuality still exists. Variation still exists. People still experience the same country in subtly different ways, depending on where they stand and which language shapes their thinking. Looking at this balance more closely, something deeper comes into focus. Switzerland isn't unified because everyone is the same. It's unified because everyone has agreed on how difference should exist without tipping into disorder. That distinction changes how you see the entire country. Before we move forward, sit with this. If you lived somewhere people spoke different languages, followed different cultural habits, and still functioned under one remarkably stable system, would that feel like unity or a quieter form of separation? Share your take in the comments. I want to hear how you read that kind of balance. And if you're still with me, hit like, send this to someone who loves cultural documentaries, and subscribe to Hidden Nation TV for more. Now, we go further. One of the first things people notice in Switzerland is not the mountains, it is movement. Or more accurately, the way everything moves without friction. Trains arrive exactly when expected. Connections are coordinated with precision that feels almost invisible in its perfection. Even small towns feel connected to larger cities in a way that removes the feeling of distance entirely. And yet, nothing about it feels rushed. There is no chaos in the system, no confusion, no uncertainty about where or when you need to be. Everything is structured so that movement becomes effortless. But what makes Switzerland's transport system fascinating is not just its efficiency, it is the trust behind it. People rely on it completely. Daily life is built around it. Work schedules, school routines, even social plans are shaped by a system that rarely breaks. And when something functions this consistently, it begins to disappear into the background of life. It is not noticed because it is always working. But if you stop and think about it, it is remarkable. Because in many parts of the world, transportation is a source of stress. Delays, unpredictability, overcrowding, breakdowns, these are common experiences. In Switzerland, unpredictability is the exception, not the rule. And that changes how people experience time itself. Time here feels structured, predictable, managed. But there is also something deeper happening beneath the surface. When systems are this reliable, people begin to organize their lives around them with confidence. There is less hesitation, less uncertainty about daily movement, and more mental space for planning. But that also means life becomes tightly linked to systems that operate with precision. And when everything runs smoothly, expectations rise, because reliability becomes normal. And what is normal is rarely appreciated until it changes. So the transport system in Switzerland is more than infrastructure. It is a reflection of how deeply order is embedded into everyday life. A silent structure that connects cities, villages, and people into one continuous rhythm of movement. But as we continue, we begin to shift away from systems again, and towards something more human. Because the next stage of life is not about movement. It is about growth, education, and the generation that will inherit this system. Before we move forward, think about this. If every part of your daily movement was perfectly predictable, would you feel more in control of your life? Or would you start missing the friction you didn't know you needed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to see how people interpret this kind of structure. And if you're still watching, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who relies on public transport, and subscribe to Hidden Nation TV for more deep documentary journeys like this. Now, we continue. To understand the future of Switzerland, you have to look at its young people. Because unlike many countries where education feels like pressure or competition, here it feels like a system designed to guide, rather than overwhelm. From an early age, children are introduced to structure, responsibility, and practical paths that connect education directly to real-life work. It is not just about academic achievement, it is about preparing for a stable role in society. And this creates a very different kind of youth experience. One that is less focused on uncertainty and more focused on direction. Many young people follow structured pathways into apprenticeships, universities, or vocational training systems that are deeply integrated into the economy. It is a system that values skill as much as theory and practical experience as much as academic success. But while this structure creates opportunity, it also shapes expectations early. Because in a system where paths are clearly defined, exploration sometimes becomes narrower. And that raises an important question. When your future is clearly mapped out from a young age, does it create confidence, or does it quietly reduce the space to explore uncertainty? For many young people, Switzerland offers security that is rare in the world. A sense that if you follow the system, life will remain stable. But at the same time, stability can sometimes feel like limitation when viewed through the lens of possibility. And so youth here grows within a balance, between freedom and structure, between opportunity and expectation, between choosing a path and being guided toward one. Still, the system is respected, because it works. It connects education to real outcomes. It reduces the gap between learning and employment. And it gives many young people a clear sense of direction in a world that often feels uncertain elsewhere. But even in such a structured environment, individuality still exists. Young people still dream, still question, still wonder what life might look like beyond the paths already laid out for them. And that is where the deeper story of this chapter begins to form. Because education is not just about systems. It is about identity, and how a society shapes the way its next generation sees possibility. Before we continue, think about this. If you grew up in a system where your path was clear, stable, and supported, would you feel more secure about your future? Or would some part of you wonder what you never got the chance to mess up? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear how different people view this kind of upbringing. And if you're still with me, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who values education stories, and subscribe to Hidden Nation TV for more deep documentaries like this. Now, we move into the final layer. Every country has a hidden trade-off. something it gains, and something it quietly gives up. And Switzerland is no different. From the outside, it feels like a country that has mastered balance, safety, wealth, order, beauty, efficiency. A place where systems work so well that life feels almost effortless. Trains arrive on time, streets remain clean, public services function with remarkable consistency. The mountains feel timeless, the cities feel organized. But when you step back and look at the full picture, a more complex question begins to appear. What happens when everything works too well for too long? Because in Switzerland, the biggest challenge is not visible chaos, it is quiet consistency. A life that is stable, structured, and predictable can create a certain emotional stillness, not sadness, but distance, a feeling that life is functioning perfectly, yet moving gently within defined boundaries. Loneliness is rarely loud here. It does not announce itself. It exists in subtle ways, in the space between social interactions, in the preference for privacy, and in the comfort of personal independence over constant connection. For some people, this creates peace. For others, it creates isolation. And that is where the paradox becomes complete. A country designed for comfort, where comfort sometimes feels like separation. A society built on efficiency, where efficiency can quietly reduce spontaneity. A life built on order, where order can sometimes leave little room for surprise. Yet perhaps that is also why Switzerland fascinates so many outsiders. It represents a different vision of success. Not excitement, not constant change, but stability. A belief that life can be improved through responsibility, planning, and trust. And to a remarkable degree, that vision has worked. Many people feel confident that the systems around them will continue functioning tomorrow just as they do today. That kind of confidence is rare, and it is valuable. But every strength carries a shadow. The same independence that creates freedom can sometimes create distance. The same privacy that creates peace can sometimes create loneliness. And perhaps that is the deeper lesson hidden beneath Switzerland's image. No society escapes trade-offs. Switzerland has chosen structure, and the results are visible everywhere. In the trains, in the cities, in the schools, in the quiet confidence of everyday life. But the emotional cost of that choice is harder to see. It exists beneath the surface, not obvious enough to appear in travel brochures, not dramatic enough to become headlines, yet real enough to shape the experience of daily life. And so the final question is not whether Switzerland is good or bad. It is whether perfection, when achieved, changes what people expect from life itself. Because once you experience a society where almost everything runs smoothly, you begin to measure the world differently. You notice inefficiency more quickly. You begin to expect reliability, but you may also begin to miss something. The unexpected moments, the sudden changes, the unpredictability that often creates stories, memories, and emotional intensity. So Switzerland leaves us with a reflection rather than an answer. What kind of life would you choose if you had to decide between perfect stability and imperfect freedom? Would you choose certainty, knowing exactly what tomorrow might bring? Or would you choose unpredictability, accepting risk in exchange for possibility? There is no universal answer. Only different priorities, different values, different definitions of what makes a life meaningful. And perhaps that is the most important lesson Switzerland offers. Not that it has discovered the perfect way to live, but that every society, no matter how successful, is built on choices. Think about that for a moment. And if this journey made you see Switzerland differently, leave your thoughts in the comments. Because every country has a story, but not every story is visible on the surface.